Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Refined Savage. Hey, let's talk about Stay Classy Meats. Stay Classy Meats, I told you last time on the last show that they just sent me another box, and it just arrived. And let me tell you, it is awesome. They had everything in there from bison steaks and bison ribeyes to regular ribeyes to bacon, chicken fillets, pork chops, bison burgers. It was overwhelming, and my freezer is now stocked with the best meat available. Now, I was talking to Scott at Stay Classy Meats, and he thinks the reason why the meat tastes so much better is because of where these animals are being raised in Bozeman, Montana. They have access to some incredible fresh streams, and the grass is just different there. And the high fiber, high nutrient grass is what gives this meat the quality taste that it has. I am hooked. I think you guys need to give these guys a try. Go to the website. Start with the small box. You don't have to start with the elite box. Start with a small box and have them deliver it right to your house. You know, that's the way to go. It comes in like a freezer box. It's fantastic. The meat is out of this world, and they give you a wide variety of different meats. And being on the carnivore diet, it's important that I mix the meats up a little bit, so I'm not always eating ribeyes. I'm not a big believer in that you always eat the same type of meats. You got to mix it up and get a little bit of variety, and I tell you what, I feel fantastic, and it's a whole different feel when I'm eating game from Stay Classy Meats. I just feel more energetic. My workouts go better. It fuels me, and I love it. So give them a holler, stayclassymeats.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Cerberus. Let's talk about Cerberus. Cerberus is making everything you need as a strongman or Highland Games athlete to succeed. From wraps and straps to belts to knee and elbow sleeves, sandbags of all different shapes and sizes, from throwing sandbags all the way up to super heavy lifting sandbags, smelling salts, tacky, you name it, they have it all. And you see their stuff all over Strongman right now, and some of the strongest dudes on the planet wearing their gear. Highland Gamers, let's pick up that thing and run with it, and let's get them on our people too. I would love to see some Cerberus gear on our athletes out on the field, and I think you're going to be very excited with the way the stuff works. Cerberus-strength.us. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. Viking Coffee. Viking Coffee is my lifeblood. I'm drinking it constantly. I drink it way too much. But no ill side effects, and it tastes really good, so I'm psyched about that. Evan Armstrong makes the best coffee around. There's not much more to say about this. Old Man Strength Coffee, he's got about 15 different other brands of coffee. Get your ass over to VikingCoffeeCo.com and use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout. You're going to drink coffee anyhow. There's no sense buying shit Folgers from the store. Have Evan Armstrong send you some coffee. All right, Serious Steel. Serious Steel. These are great people, man, and they are the place to go if you need to outfit a gym or a home gym, commercial gym, whatever you need, man. These guys have all the products. There's no reason to go to one of these big equipment companies. Serious Steel has it all. Their bands, for their jump stretch style bands, whatever you want to call them, are the best I've ever used. They don't wear out as fast, and they're less expensive than most. I don't know why people think they need to charge $8,000 for a set of bands. These guys don't. Bands are very inexpensive, and they're the best ones around. I don't know why people aren't jumping all over these things. So check them out. SeriousSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. And Warrior CBD. Warrior CBD oil has been a life changer for me. You know, here in Ohio, we get nonsense CBD oil. So there's no THC in it, or there's very, very little THC in it. And some of them say they're full spectrum, and they're not. Here in Ohio, you're basically buying essential oils, which, unless you're some fucking hippie, there's no reason to buy essential oils. None of that shit works anyhow. Get a hold of Nancy at Warrior CBD and get yourself the real deal. Straight out of Colorado, man. Good shit. I use it every single night. It's also great for your pets. Keep them calm instead of pushing drugs down their throat when there's a thunderstorm. Give them a little CBD oil and they will chill out. and they have muscle rubs and stuff for aches and pains. It's just all great stuff, and the people at the company could not be nicer and more helpful. You can get a hold of them right on Instagram, and they will help you on your journey as to what you should be taking. Or you can just go to the website, warriorcbdofficial.com. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout for 20% off on your order. Finally, today, Iron and Stone Strength. If you guys have never been up there at Iron and Stone Strength up in the Buffalo area, fantastic gym, fantastic people. They are living the strongman lifestyle. They're all about strength sports. This is not some shitty apparel brand where, the owners have nothing really to do with the strength sports. These guys are neck deep in this shit, and they are doing wonderful things up there. They're promoting their Festivus competition coming up. So if you guys are looking for strongman competition to do around December, this is the place to go. Check out Iron and Stone Strength, ironandstonestrength.com. Their gear is awesome. They've got everything from hats to jackets to t-shirts to sweatpants. They have it all, and they're awesome people. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE at checkout for 20% off. Today on the show, we have the man, the myth, the legend, James Spurgin. If you guys haven't heard our previous podcast with James Spurgin, you are in for a real treat. What I would do is go back and listen to that original podcast with James Spurgin and then come back to this one. But it doesn't matter. If you want to just jump right in and listen to this one, you'll be fine. You'll understand. He is the most motivating human being on earth, and there are a million times where I've been in the gym and something hurt or something wasn't working the way it should or so a workout was super hard, and I say to myself, hey, what would fucking James Spurgin do? And it gives me a second wind, and I'm telling you, that's the attitude you need to have when you're dealing with James Spurgin because he is a human dynamo. Give this episode a try. Check it out. I want to hear your thoughts. I want you to go out and fucking share this episode with people who need motivation. You can do this, folks. I'll see you at the end. Yeah, James Spurgin. Yeah, we were just talking about the post about the Cleveland Avenue Ludus a couple days ago that I did, and that was a great gym, man. I got super strong in that place.
Yeah.
Very
I kind of feel
Spartan.
I feel like I'm strongest and fattest right now too.
What are you weighing now?
275, something like that.
And tell me about the most recent competition. Let's
All right,
get into this.
So this year has been very successful so far. I've competed in the Arnold at America's Strongest Disabled Man competition and Worlds, and I've won my category in all three.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
really we
successful.
can officially call you World's Strongest Disabled Man now.
That you can.
Last year there was like some judging snafu or something.
I don't know. I mean, technically I was last year too because there's two categories, really. I mean, you can't, I don't know. I'm not really sure how that works.
Right.
I can tell you I'm probably after all the competitions, I'm the strongest single-arm competitor there is out there.
See, that's what's so crazy about that, too, is, you're dealing with, people of different, when we've talked about this before, differing variables. And
the thing that they're struggling with most right now, anybody who runs that stuff, is coming up with some kind of way to, judge the difference between, say, like a log press for a certain amount of weight versus like a dumbbell press for a certain amount of weight.
Yeah.
And honestly, the person I think who does it the best so far is Chris Baccio. He spends a lot of time testing things and having like other strongmen test stuff and see what they can do.
Yeah.
So he's come up with like a figure for deadlift, for instance. You multiply the single arm deadlift by 0.63. So so they do that, and then they add the weight, and then whoever's total weight is higher.
I want to see what that ends up being, because I know what mine was. So I did a 425 single arm deadlift times 6.3.
0.63, and then you add that.
Yeah. 425 times 0.63.
Mm-hmm.
This is super entertaining.
Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, he's pressing buttons on his phone."
Yeah, that comes out to about right. So
yeah, it's made things more interesting at the America's Strongest competition because there's I have, instead of being categorized, you're competing with everybody in the standing class.
Right.
Which, at Worlds at this point, they don't really have that. And
is Magnus run Worlds?
So Magnus is the head coach.
Okay.
And he participates mainly, I think, in like acquiring the equipment and coach and doing the not coaching. Doing the judging and all of that stuff. But the other guy is Arnar.
Okay.
I forget what his last name. Arnar. He started it, right?
Yeah.
Like 25 years ago or something like that in Iceland, and he kind of comes up with all that stuff. And I was a little disappointed because I talked to him actually at Worlds this year, and he was like, "Well, two competitors in a class doesn't make a class." And I'm like, listen, like fine, then create some kind of way to equalize everybody out. And I think actually I did win overall a few of the events. I think I won 3 or 4 of the events, but I don't think they counted that because I wasn't in the standing 1 class. I don't know what they did.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I didn't pay too much of attention to it because there was a mix-up with points for the seeded class. They gave the wrong person the championship, and that got all messed up too. So.
God. Yeah,
I mean, listen,
God love them.
They're
trying.
They do their thing. There's something for us because they're doing it right. So I can't sit here and criticize them or anything like that. I just as it goes, it'll evolve and it'll become better and better and better. And I have to tell myself that because there's points where I'm like, you know what, fuck this. I'm done with this shit.
You're being the pioneer.
Right. Somebody has to do it. And I also understand that there's very few people that are disabled or injured or whatever you want to call it that are in the upper extremities that want to do fucking strongman.
Yep.
What kind of psycho wants to do an arm-centric sport with one arm, right?
So, it so is, too. Every time I've had an arm injury, I'm like, how the fuck am I going to train? What can I do? So I'm like writing down lists of things. My elbow's like slightly tweaked right now, so I don't want to do anything that's going to make it worse. I'd like try to come up with a workout this morning for everybody that we can do that I don't actually have to use my arms without telling everyone, oh, I'm doing this because my arm hurts. I don't want to be that guy. But it's you're the pioneer, and then 20 years down the line when they have this finally figured out,
and then I think the big thing with Arnar and Magnus is they don't want it to become like the Paralympics where there's like, I don't know, 5,000 different categories for certain things, right? Like, and everything has a special, so there's like subcategories for each injury, and then that tells them how to add up points to decide the winner. Yeah, and it's so complex and convoluted.
That's got to be hard for spectators. It's got to be hard for the athletes to figure out if you're winning or losing.
And so for me, at this point, I'm more like, for me, I think the better thing to do rather than, get all frustrated and upset about the way that the meets are run is participate in the meets, do the best that I can there, and then work on doing something, some spectacles. Yeah. Like, yes. One of the things that I really hope to do is get with Rogue and maybe do some of those, because they have those record breakers things at the Arnold. Well, we do some disabled record breakers.
Have you contacted them yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
No. I'm waiting for my strength to catch up because I don't want to go in there and be like, what I really want to do is set a 300-pound stone as the
onto a platform
over the thing, like Shaw does over that thing. Which, incidentally, I think the last time I talked to you, I could not get the larger size stone. What was that? I think that's an 18-inch diameter one. Right. I could only manage the 16s. And like a couple weeks ago, it just clicked. Yeah. And I loaded a 240 last weekend.
God damn.
So
that's amazing.
And I don't know what it was. I've been training with my buddy Josh Eisel, I think is how you say his last name. He's a strongman competitor. what's his weight class? 105
kilos.
So it's like light heavy or whatever it is. Yeah, 220,
like
and he's 6'4" or 5" or something like that. I mean, he just has a similar mindset to me that we both like drive off of each other.
Right.
It's like we have that same perseverance in the gym. Like,
it's the most important thing,
right? We just keep going. And funny enough, he sent me this podcast from Elite FTS, and it was Jam Blakely and what's the other guy's name?
Dave Tate.
Dave Tate. Yeah. Sorry. And Jam was talking about, what's the most, or what's the best thing that he's learned in the gym, and he said perseverance, and I was like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? Like you just keep at it until you get it done. So.
I'm a firm believer in environment, training partners, and perseverance. I honestly, after all these years of doing this and talking to so many people, when I was competing and now that I'm doing the podcast, and it's just like the sets and reps don't matter within reason. But if you just keep coming to the gym and putting in work every single day and not taking extended time off and having guys that are willing to push you a little bit and you push them and there's some good natured back and forth, and those are the most important things. That's what gets people strong or gets people tougher mentally. And I'm right now, we used to have a lunch crew that did that, but my training has changed significantly. So the lunch crew is mostly Hammy and Zach now, but I'm looking for people who want to train with me. But it's almost like a tryout. It's almost like an interview process. There's 2 or 3 guys in the gym here that I would be like, yeah, let's do this. You and me, because I know that Isaac is one of these guys here who's a former Force Recon sniper, and he's an absolute fucking lunatic. Like you can't beat Isaac mentally. And if he didn't have a real job and 17 kids, I would love to have him in here every day at 5 a.m. getting after it with me. But
that's what they teach, though. They teach that perseverance.
Yeah.
The will to succeed, to conquer, no matter what. And if you don't get it done the first time, you just keep coming back.
Yeah.
Keep smashing at that wall until it falls down.
Now, you were a Marine, right?
I was. Well, I'm still.
You're always a Marine, right?
I don't think you ever lose that attitude.
Do you think that mental toughness was in you before you went in, or do you think they build that into you, or a little bit of both?
One of the things that JM was talking about was, you and I, we're only like 1/10% genetically different.
Right.
And over the last however long humans or the Homo sapiens, whatever the current,
going to be about like 300,000
modern man, right? Modern man,
300,000
years has been genetically adapting and evolving to survive, right? So back then, it was eat and don't get killed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to eat. You don't want to die. So the people that made it through all of that have dumped all their genes into us.
Yeah.
Right? And so all of that is in this, is in you and I currently, and everybody else. And all you have to do is have the desire or the will to dig down there and find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody can do it. That's what I think. I don't think I'm special. Like, I just decided that I was going to continue on until I figured it out.
I don't think there's anything physically special about any of us, but the mindset is a whole different world, because there's people that I know who, they stub their toe, they tweak their knee, they sleep wrong on their neck, and it derails everything. And you don't seem to let anything ever derail you.
Let's be fair. There are some times when it's tough to get through something, but I just I don't know. I drop the negative thoughts and emotions quickly, and then try it again, and try it again, and until eventually it happens.
Hundreds of times since we've met where, I'm always fucked up. Something's always wrong with me. I'm an old guy. I've been doing this for 35 years. And there's been hundreds of times, literally, where I have been like, oh, this fucking hurts. I can't do this. And I've thought of you, and it's inspired me, in my own way, where I think, fucking Spurgin can do it. Why are you being such a pussy? And then I go on, Yeah. But that's I look at you as a huge inspiration, and it's as horrible as your injury was. It's made you.
And I think that's if usually people don't ask me, would you go back and change it? But I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be me.
Right.
I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah.
And I do, so I think, like Jan was talking about, there's those three things, right? The physical, the mental, and the spiritual, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he made a good point. He was like, this Vietnam veteran he talked to or read a book about was stuck or got shot down, ended up escaping from the prison camp that he got held up in, and ran through the jungle for 3 weeks or something, and barefoot with no food, right? And by the time he got to like week 2, his mind had broke. He was seeing his father telling him which way to go, right? His mind's gone, but he still made it. So explain that, right?
Yeah.
The body and the mind, we can adjust those things, right? Whereas this other thing helps us get through these things.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know what that is, right? I mean, I know how to use it, right? I couldn't explain what it is, but there's something that just tells me to, try again.
Keep going.
Go hard. Go again. Go harder. Don't quit, right?
Yeah, I've seen
and
you
it's
in
not
your...
and it's not like it's a conscious thought. It comes from somewhere.
Yeah. What were your folks like when you were doing athletics as a kid? Were they...
So I didn't do much athletic stuff as a kid,
right,
other than being an 80s and early 90s kid. I mean, we just lived outside.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
My parents didn't put a TV in the house until I was like 6 or 7. And then we had, I grew up in I think the 4th safest city in the United States.
Yeah, where are you from?
Thousand Oaks, California.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, I think I saw a cop car drive by the house twice in the 20 years I lived there. But we played, we were rough, and there wasn't this stigma that you went outside and play, you're gonna get picked up by a pedophile,
right,
or run over by a crazy person in a car not paying attention on a cell phone or anything like that. So my parents weren't consciously worried about that. I mean, and I think it made my childhood better. I had more experiences when I was growing up of if you drive down a steep ramp on a bicycle without a helmet and hit a fucking tree and slap your head off the ground, that's not a good idea.
How many of...
So maybe I'll put my helmet on next time.
We all had that.
But my experience is, I put my helmet on my motorcycle, and that's why I'm fucking talking to you.
That's true.
Because I slapped my head off the concrete on my bicycle, didn't die there, learned that I should put a helmet on, and then when I got in this motorcycle wreck, I lived through it because I had a helmet on.
You learned your lessons.
And it just seems like that isn't necessarily the case anymore. People don't spend enough time outside digging holes,
Yeah.
Just because you got to dig a hole. I don't know.
It's funny, every kid I grew up with, myself included, at one point or another, did the endo over the front of the bike, landed on their head, had to get stitches.
Smashed their face in.
We all did it. None of us are brain dead,
right. Yeah, and so we played, our big thing was roller hockey.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
we played, we would take everybody in the neighborhood had rollerblades, had a hockey stick. Some people had more equipment than others. Some people had the goals.
Right.
And we would, in this giant group, would skate the goals over to the school, set up on the basketball court, and just hammer the shit out of each other for an entire day, and it was a blast. And so I grew up doing that kind of thing, and I guess I had this mindset that I hated being accountable for other people in group sports. Hated it.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I joined the Marine Corps and was accountable for everybody in the platoon.
Yeah.
But that was different. That was more life or death type thing, right? The other guy, the guy next to you fucks up, steps on a landmine, you get it too.
Sure.
And so when I was growing up, that just pissed me off. Like, I got to run wind sprints because this bastard isn't putting out 100%.
Yep.
So I kind of, retracted from that. I played a little football when I was younger, a little basketball, but that's about it. I didn't play any sports in high school, but I picked up martial arts. So I started doing that.
You did Muay Thai, right?
Yeah, I did Muay Thai. Okay, so here's a funny story that I found out. Actually, I talked to one of my best friends that I started doing martial arts with a couple months ago, like a month ago, and we got into the conversation about this, and I was telling him, I was like, man, back when we started, I started training like in junior high, something like that, like right before high school. High school is when I picked up Muay Thai. Mm-hmm. But before that, I was training with this guy, Scott Johnson, and it was some kind of Tung Sudo stuff that they had kind of manipulated. They were like drawing and all this. That was, when the UFC started. Mm-hmm. Back then, that was like 95, 94, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like 94, 95, somewhere right around there. And apparently, my instructor at that point was being trained by somebody who was getting his information from the source, from Gracie. So we were doing all this grappling, not calling it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because it wasn't called that at the time. And I was learning arm bars, the guard, triangle chokes, rear naked chokes. I was learning key locks, kimuras, ankle locks, all of that stuff in like 95. Yeah. And I didn't realize, I didn't realize what was happening until, just recently. I was like, wait a minute. We were learning all this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu shit back in 95. Where the hell were we getting it from? So I asked my buddy, and he's like, apparently our instructor was being coached by one of the Gracies. I was like, oh my God.
Because they were the only ones.
Because they were the only ones that knew it. Right. That had it, it hadn't broken out in the United States yet.
I remember seeing that the first time, and that I think it was UFC 2 maybe I saw.
I think 2 or 3 I started. I mean, I was heavy into it obviously in high school. So.
Yeah, I remember seeing.
I thought it looked like crap until Hoist fought. Like, I thought it looked like absolute nonsense.
And then it was like Hoist broke
wait a minute, the martial arts just won.
Right.
I'm like, see, that's what they've been telling me.
He broke that one kung fu guy's arm with like a standing arm bar, and I was like, what the fuck did he just do? And it was just amazing that guy. And I guess the story goes is that Hickson Gracie was actually the true master. He was the savage. He was killing everybody over in Japan. He was winning all these Valley Tudo tournaments, but he looked too scary. And he looked like a super athlete. He was like 185, super jacked, bald head, ripped.
Had the stoic face, never showed emotion.
Samurai.
Absolutely.
So they threw Hoist in there because he had like the dad bod and everything. And it was probably a great marketing campaign because most of the people out there looked more like Hoist than they did Hickson.
Well, it kind of worked, didn't it?
Yeah, right?
What's the number one, what's the first thing they tell you to learn now? And when you want to defend yourself,
learn grappling, learn how to take people down and fight off your back.
I do appreciate the start off in that though, because we also had catch wrestling, catch wrestling, or
catch wrestling, catch can wrestling,
from England, right? Mm-hmm. I mean that's where that's from, and so that was also kind of thrown in there. So we were learning to put the person in a lock before we were in position.
Right.
Whereas traditional jiu-jitsu was position before the submission, right? And so we were learning some tricks and some things that I still have rolling around in my head about, you don't necessarily need to throw both legs over when you want to do an arm bar. You can tuck one underneath the back of their neck and then pinch your knees together to pull, to finish the arm bar.
I watch a lot of catch wrestling videos,
but you're getting that ideas when you're falling in position.
Yeah.
Like you already have the lock as you're falling in. I mean, it's a little more dangerous because you don't necessarily want to train hard when you're doing that. You got to go real easy when you're falling into a position already locked, right? Because you can't control the fall. And,
well, wrestlers are dangerous in jiu-jitsu class anyhow. I had Kyle Cannell, his podcast will be coming out before this one, but we did the podcast, and I heard that he had taken a few jiu-jitsu classes. I said, why don't you come out and roll with us out at Shudubu? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So he got a hold of me, and he came out the next week. And so normally, we drill for about 20 minutes to a half hour, and then we roll for 20 minutes to a half hour. And but that day we were just drilling because there was a couple new white belts in there. And but afterwards, I was like, hey, Kyle, you want to roll a little bit? I just wanted to see what it was like, It was like...
Did you end up on your back?
Well, I didn't even attempt. I went right to the guard.
Yeah.
And because that was my only prayer. It's not like I'm going to be able to take this guy down. So I pulled guard quick and lasted about 3 minutes, which for me I thought was great. So fast. For, he wrestles 197, but he was probably 215 at the time.
Lightning speed, yeah.
So fast and so strong. But I told my wife, she asked, why are you doing this? I said, it's like, I feel like I'm Laird Hamilton, riding a big wave. You just got to see what it's like. You got to feel that.
I just listened to him on Rogan. That guy, he's like, there's some people that talk and you're like, oh, I want to try that. Like, oh, just how they say it or something.
Right.
But he, he started talking about the sauna and all of that shit and now I'm like, I find myself looking on Amazon for like a home sauna the next day. Like,
see, we're both psychopaths because I did the same thing. And, I've been telling Aaron I wanted to get a sauna, but when I started
training in the heat, fuck it, you're already in the sauna.
So I turn the heat up like way high when I'm training, or I like keep the doors all shut during the summer, but. She's like all worried I'm going to go up to 220. I'm like, no. We'll start out at like, 150. And I said, but I'll progress, maybe get up to like 170. But, that was the goal too. It's like, how hot could I get this and still handle it? But I think that's part of us being a psychopath.
He was talking about having an assault bike in the sauna.
I saw a video of him doing it, and he had fucking oven mitts on. So he's in the sauna on an assault bike with oven mitts, getting after it.
I mean, he's over 50,
52, I think.
And he looks like he's about 30, like...
I put a post up a couple weeks ago, and everyone thought I was pissed off. And it was like, it was a picture of him and Rogan and, no, there was a couple other guys. All of them were
I saw
50.
That. Yeah, over 50 guys, yeah.
And it's just like, I get so many people who come up to me in stores or they'll come to me here at the gym and they'll say, I can't train like you guys do. I can't do it.
Why not?
Exactly. You're my age. Or some of them are younger than me. I'm
yes,
like,
you can.
You certainly can. I've got a 65-year-old woman in here who does it.
That's the Navy SEAL thing, the 60-40 thing, where you're only using 40% of your capacity at any time, and then you think you're done.
Yeah.
But you're not. That's just your or your primal brain, trying to keep you from going too hard, because they don't think you're going to have food the next day.
Right.
That's something that we learned 300,000 years ago.
Got to override
over 300,000 years. That isn't necessary anymore because food is available at any time.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like and calorie dense food too. Like it's not like you're going to eat, a thing of broccoli or something. Like you can get steak.
That's part of the reason why I like intermittent fasting so much is I get a lot of health benefits from it. My immune system, the inflammation, all that stuff is great. But part of what I like about it is the discipline of there's food everywhere, but I don't need it. I don't need to eat 3 times a day. I don't need to gorge myself. I can go, the other day I did a 24-hour fast. I didn't even bother me, and I had a nice big steak at night, and I just like that.
I've been pretty much eating whatever I can at this point.
You're at a whole different point.
I'm trying to get that fattest and strongest at this point, and eventually I'll come back to where you're at. But at this point, I mean, I realize that the bigger and stronger that I get, the more and more that I can do, right? Physically,
that's strong,
I mean, that's just the way it is, right? And I know I brought this up a couple times, but JM, man, he said, how much fat are you willing to gain?
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't gain muscle without fat. It just doesn't.
Yep.
Unless you're on some ridiculous regime of, unmentionables.
What he was saying, he was willing to gain 3 pounds of fat for 1 pound of muscle.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. What are you willing to do? Right.
Yeah.
And again, he's like, everybody's body type's slightly different, right? So I mean that's going to change. Like I put on a little bit more fat to gain muscle because that's just the way my body works. And I know that at any point I can just start doing some cardio or whatever to drop the fat, and
That
and,
really
but
is
I'm not worried about
part.
that. I'm worried about right now. Well, not worried, but right now what I want.
You're focused.
What I'm focused on is stronger, bigger things, more weight, bigger stones.
Yeah.
I'm working on the Thomas inch. I know that sounds insane to anybody who's listening. Who knows what the hell
are you
it
going to
is.
do with it? Are you going to try to press it?
I almost pressed a 155 Thomas inch.
No shit.
With no wrist wrap.
I can't even get it off the floor. I've tried it a million times at Ashland. Every time I go in there and I go, oh yeah, today's the day. Never comes off the floor.
But you can't just go straight to it. You gotta get all those different ones in between. Actually, so at the Arnold this year, I ran into Odd.
Yeah.
How do you say his name?
Odd Hogan.
Odd Hogan. Yeah. Hogan, right?
I think so. Hogan. Haugen. Haugen.
Haugen. Odd Haugen. Anyway, he happened to be there when I loaded the 190 stone. That was, by the way, they were slick.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Slater stones.
They were brand new. I mean, they were shiny,
pretty.
polished.
Yeah.
What I should have done is taken my shirt off.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was just slipping on my clothes. Which I learned, and I've progressed.
I always take my shirt off for heavy stone lifting. Yeah. Tacky my chest up.
But he was standing there. He's looking at me, and I'm like, oh man, that's. So I went over there, and I start talking to shake his hand and stuff, and his hands were just catcher's mitts.
OG strong.
Oh my goodness! And I started talking to him, and he's like, your grip is insane. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You're telling me this?
Yeah.
You got the record for picking up the 172 pound or 2.5 inch handle, Thomas Inch bell. What did he do it 50 something times or something like that? So obviously that kind of that struck something in me. I was like, man, he's telling me that I got this grip. I got to do this. Like, I got to keep at this. And so I've been progressing through that. I mean, it's not going to be, it's going to be a lifetime achievement goal, right, to get that. But it's just, I'm telling you, something clicked in the last couple weeks, like last month or something, that it was just like, one thing happened and it just next thing happened and so on and so forth. Like the stones sort of kicked it off.
Yeah.
I posted a video a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, of a 180-pound natural stone to the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
So when I did that, 55 weeks prior, it took me a minute and a half to load it to a 55-gallon drum.
Mm-hmm.
I could barely get the thing off the ground.
Yeah.
And now I just toss it on my shoulder like it's a warm-up.
Yeah.
It's like this.
Something's clicking.
So something is just, it's that. I think it all comes back to perseverance. The more you keep trying and trying and trying, eventually it clicks, and then right? You can do it.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yep.
Right? It's no longer guess. Now you know. And so I just went to a 220-pound natural stone that I almost got to my shoulder.
Yeah.
I know now that it's all possible.
Yeah.
So
we've got a 230 out here you can play with.
Yeah.
I just brought one in for the Highlander.
Yeah, and you have all the Atlas stones, so I wish, we have.
Well, we got Brooke Sousa coming up today too, so you guys can get a little session in if you want.
So so then we have a 215-pound, 18-inch diameter. I think it's 18. It's the larger diameter, or the next size up diameter stone.
Yeah, it gives people a lot of problems.
Which has been my crux for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, right? Mm-hmm. And it was such a struggle to get it onto my leg from the ground. I really don't know what necessarily changed, but I think technique wise changed. I got stronger, all of that. I got more confident. Anyway, I went at it and it ended up loading it, and I freaked out. I was like, this is insane. How did I do this? I didn't even expect to get it off the ground, right?
Yeah.
And then the next week I came in and tried the 240, and that one was even easier. Just keep trying. If you get anything out of this podcast, keep trying. Keep trying.
What about having Slater make you one with more lead in the middle of it to make the diameter?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, well, how special does it need to be, right? Like, does it need to be special? Like, I don't know.
I had to make me a smaller 400-pound stone because I couldn't get my arms around
Well,
it.
we have a 300-pound stone that's I think 18 inches at the gym that Vaccio had made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's that could be the standard, the single arm. So here's something that I definitely want to like address, right? When you say single arm, it's the only arm. You're not using a stub. You're not using anything else, right?
Yeah.
One limb.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you tacky up a below the elbow amputation, it's different.
Yeah.
Right? You have another point of contact.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm coming at with this one specifically, because there's already guys that, with low arm amputations and other things that have done larger stones, but they use that.
And it's more of a squeeze than a grip. So
right,
let's say you had half a forearm.
Right, you still have the squeeze.
Yeah,
and these guys, they do it the able body way, where they're not kneeling on the floor to do that first.
Right.
So it's just for that. That's kind of what I was hoping to create. This is the single limb stone record, right? So that the reason I'm bringing that is not because I want this record, right? I could give two shits. It would be awesome, and I want to do it for myself. But what it would do is set a standard for somebody else to come after, right? And competition creates drive, creates and so if somebody can see that that's in my situation, well, maybe it'll draw more competitors into the sport because they're because the visual metrics of it is greater, right? It's the spectacle.
You don't know. There's probably some 16-year-old kid right now who's going,
I want to do that.
He can do it. I can do it.
And he's gonna beat me someday, and then I've succeeded.
Yes, exactly.
In life, I have succeeded in life if I have got somebody, if I have quote inspired somebody to do something greater. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and I think the Thomas Inch bell is perfectly set up for you.
Oh, it's perfect.
I remember Kaz talking about it. And when Kaz pressed it, he said he compared it to driving a golf ball 1,000 yards. Like it was a feat that it's almost impossible.
It's a magical feat.
Yeah. And I think that's set up so perfectly for you.
I mean, I wouldn't be lying if I didn't agree. I would be lying if I didn't agree with you, because it's a bell. It's huge. I've got some of the genetics to do it, right? Because I have a larger hand and stuff like that. And I do that constantly. The single arm press stuff. Like the bell is one of the events that I usually do well in the events that I compete in. And so we have them at the gym that at Beyond Limits, and I just keep trying the different ones. And it was funny because when I first started there, Vaccio had this enormous red circus bell, right? Enormous. I think it has 2.5 inch handle. I think it has a Thomas Inch handle. Mm-hmm. And it's like 2.5 feet wide. I mean, it's huge, right? I think it weighs 135, and when I came in there, I was like, I'm gonna press that. Like someday, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna press this damn bell, and so I kept at it, and now that's it's a warm up.
Ashland, University of Ashland has a strength summit every December, second week of December. I'm actually speaking at it this year, but they've got a Thomas Inch dumbbell there. It might be a good opportunity for you to do it in front of a bunch of people in the strength community. Start training. I could set it up so easily.
Yeah. Shit. You got my
Malcolm Majeski out there
turning. So Paul Mauser's got his thing, and he's gonna have an inch thing that I don't know. The last time he had a stubby, he called it the stub. It was like it was basically just a log, but a dumbbell log, and he was gonna have people press it at the end of the event, but we were all out in the sun all day. That was the one we were there. We were there.
And you went up there, no warm up through 18 feet with 42 or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's a trick lift.
But anyway,
put my coffee down, kick my flip flops off.
And he goes, after Moss Wrestling's done, anybody want to lift the dumbbell? I'm like, I don't have any gas. Anyway, so that I have
this
a feeling
is a replica dumbbell that they got from I think Sornex. Is a good story when they were transporting it to University of Ashland. Judd Logan and John McEwen, who was an Olympian in the Hammer as well, are driving in Judd's old pickup truck, and they're driving down the highway, and they hit a bump or something, and the inch bell's in the back of their truck goes flying, hits the tailgate, smashes it open, falls out into the middle of the highway. So they pull over real quick, and it stops traffic. Yeah. They come running back and here's this like 70-year-old lady trying to lift the dumbbell out of the street, and they're like, "Oh, we'll get it." They both picked it up, threw it in the back of the truck, and took off.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, that's been sitting at Ashland University weight room for about 15 years now. So. It might be a good place to do it. That's a great strength seminar. They have last year they had Ryan Fanley, Matt Wenning, Judd, and I'm forgetting people. But it was great. It was a great seminar. Jance Footed from Five Rings. It's so funny, Jance Footed. You know Jance? So everybody always forgets Jance for some reason. So they nicknamed him Just Jance. Oh, it's just Jance. But he had like the best speech of the whole seminar. He talked about going over to Russia and trained with the Russian powerlifters, and then he went over to China and trained with the Chinese Olympic team in the same year. So for like 2 months out of last year, he was in these bastions of strength, just training with these guys. And that's what he did his speech on. It was awesome. But that would be. I don't know who he's having this year other than me, but and I don't know what I'm talking about yet. But it'd be nice. It'd be a good opportunity for you.
I'm gonna have to make my way up just anyway, I think.
Yeah.
I've got some work to do still. I gotta. I'm 20 pounds down at this point. I think I'm pretty confident that I could do the 155 at the gym.
Where are you missing? Are you missing the clean? Or are you missing the?
So. I'll show you the little video that I took of it, but I don't know what the specific stipulations are on it, but what I did was I did the pick. Yeah. I got it to my knee like I normally do. And then at that point, it was like just too unwieldy to do my little knee kick to get it up to the shoulder. So what I did is I got crunched down into a squat, pinned it against my shoulder, and stood up with it. And then bounced it into position, and at that point, it was like my third or fourth attempt of the day. So I had gone from not being able to get it anywhere to getting it to the leg to getting it sort of positioned, then to getting it up, and then at that point I was out of gas. And I just missed the press by.
I wonder if like Kaz, if he double-handed it to his shoulder, if that could they do circus dumbbells.
So that's the thing. I think there's only one or maybe I think there's only maybe 5 people that have ever done it without ever using the other hand. I know Mark Henry was able to do it, but he cleaned it all the way to. I mean, it was like a power clean.
Yeah. He also weighed 420 pounds.
Right, which is what I'm working on. No, well, I don't know about how much that weight's actually gonna. It's a confidence thing. It's an initial pick and grip thing where you're you just have to have extreme focus on compressing the handle, right? Like to it's a weird thing because I'm speaking like more personally when it comes to lifting those things. If I'm not really paying attention, I can't lift it. Like I really need to pay attention to it. I need to crush it. I close my hand like I'm trying to kill the thing, and then I can pick it up. But that's sort of that's what I had to do with like the 135, right? Yeah. And then before that, like the 100, and so on and so forth. So it's just progression through perseverance where I'm, now I'm picking up something that I think there's only one other person in the gym that can pick it up, right? So
that's awesome.
I mean, that's not it's just again, I'm not saying there's anything special. It's just. Keep trying, keep going, keep at it. Like it went from one thing to the other. And it's funny because, like social media and all that stuff, they only show, well, usually me, especially me, if you don't scroll back, you don't see where I started.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you don't see any of that. Like,
Yeah.
you don't see the work, the weeks of work and days and hours and all of that. Like, you're only seeing the end result,
Yeah.
right? And then people are like, oh, I could get that, like, I'm going to try that. Well, there's there's a lot
they
of...
also don't see that you're working a full-time job,
Right.
and you've got all these other stressors and,
Right.
and life shit. It's not
Yep.
you're
Pay
not
the
Larry
mortgage,
Wheels
take care
only
of the-
lifting weights.
Take care of the animals, pay
Yeah.
the mortgage, go to work. It's funny though. I think another thing too that you were talking about how, what was I going to try to say? Like I have this chronic pain that I deal with, right?
Right,
Like I have the chronic nerve pain in the arm all the time. Had it since it happened.
Yep.
And I feel like that's obviously negative, right? And then there's some things that are bad about it. But one thing that I think it's helped me with is really let go of stuff that doesn't matter. Like I don't carry any of the stress of work after I leave.
Yeah,
I
it's
literally
done.
drop it. It's gone.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Whatever. It'll be there when I get back. And if
That's
if
important for sure.
I was listening to something else on probably YouTube or something. It was a TED Talk or something. It was a psychiatrist talking about stress and how you handle that, right? Like picture I got a cup sitting in front of me. Picture this cup is got a little bit of water in it, and you're holding it at arm's length. You can sit there and hold it for quite a while, right? No big deal. But as the days go by, it becomes nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe a month goes by, you still got the same cup here. Your arms, I doubt you could still hold it, right?
Right.
So why not just set it down?
Pick it up again tomorrow.
Or leave it there.
Yeah.
You don't need to take it with you.
Right.
I've been on this thing like lately where you don't take any of this shit with you once you die.
Yeah.
The only thing you take with you is that spirit thing. Or maybe. I don't
Whatever
know.
it is.
Or
right?
whatever it is. Like, we can only... nobody can explain what it is,
Yeah.
right? But it's got to be there because, like I was saying, that guy running through the jungle, he didn't have the other things. So
Yeah.
what got him through it?
It's that fascinates me, and I've been reading a few books on near-death experiences, and Graham. We talked about Graham Hancock, touching a little bit on that in his works. And I had a friend die a year ago, April, I believe it was March, March, and I debated because he had leukemia, and they kept giving him clean bills of health. No, we can't detect cancer, and then it would come back, and then we can't detect cancer, and it would come back, and I watched not only him but his wife both deteriorate. I mean, their health. She was focused on was keeping him healthy, and it killed her too.
Yeah.
So, the final straw, they gave him 6 weeks to live, and that blew my fucking mind because you go in there and a doctor says you have 6 weeks to live. And it's like, what happens then? What's going on in your brain?
Okay, so one thing I'm curious about there, or I don't accept, right? My stubborn mind doesn't accept that.
Right.
Who you're not an all-knowing being.
Right.
You don't get to choose.
I think he
when I leave
lasted
this
longer
planet.
than that as
right.
well.
You don't get
so.
to choose.
Right.
Why say that?
Yeah.
You have a finite period of time left or something. Like, you don't need to give them a timetable. Get the fuck out of here. You don't know. All you know is something that you've accumulated over time, right? That's like saying I'm obese because my BMI is fucking 30 something.
Right.
Get the hell out of here. Test my lean mass.
Well,
you know,
Western medicine has got issues for sure. My thing was though is after they told him that, I debated. So I talked to my wife, I talked to some friends, and I wanted to have him on the podcast. And I wanted to have him on the podcast for a couple reasons. I wanted to know where your brain is at when that happens and what's going through your brain now. I also wanted to give him an opportunity to have his voice and all his thoughts out there
forever,
so his wife and family could come back. And I chickened out because I didn't know if it was offensive. I didn't know if it looked self-serving. And it was a little self-serving because I was fascinated with what goes on in your brain, but I procrastinated, and then we lost him. And the next day I came in and probably did, from what people have told me, my best podcast ever, where I came in and just ranted for a half hour on life and death, and the fact that I'm going to miss this guy, and what happens and where do you go, and the good news is I think he led a very honorable life. His wife has since recovered to the point where she's an absolute fucking animal in the gym, and she's healthy and she looks good. When he died, he was losing a ton of weight, because all the cancer, and she was losing it too. So she was skeletal, and just from the stress, I'm sure. And now she's kind of jacked, and she's got like a bubble butt, and she's doing shit. And then Judd Logan, who was my mentor, got diagnosed with leukemia about the same time as this guy died, a year later. And they can't detect any traces in his blood now. But they were doing this Logan Strong workout, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people did this workout in support of him. And the most emotional thing I've ever seen in this gym was that woman who doesn't even know Judd doing that workout. And I said, I stopped class and I filmed it and just watched her, and she fucking went insane, to the point where when she was done with this workout, she had to lay on the floor in her own sweat for a good half hour to recover from it. I've never seen her go harder. And I don't know what happens, and I'm fascinated by it.
There's that 60%.
Right?
Right there. Once the mind clicks, there's that 60%.
Yeah.
Like that was 100% of her capacity.
100%.
Right.
100% of her.
Because obviously you can't go over that, right?
If a tiger was chasing her, she couldn't have gone harder.
She would have turned around and probably choked it out.
Yeah, at this point. She's in fucking South Africa right now on some mission trip. Which is another amazing thing to me, because you've gone through all this hardship and heartache and struggles, and she's still, I'm not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination, but she's over there preaching her God to these people in South Africa, and it's a dangerous situation. Johannesburg is not the safest place on the planet. She's over there with these missionaries preaching Jesus to them, and if it were me and Aaron died of that, I would be so angry if I was a believer,
Well, maybe that's the good part of their religion, like the forgiveness part. Maybe she forgave everybody, including her God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And has carried on. Yeah, I don't... Yeah, that's always been a strange thing for me when it comes to that stuff. Like, you praise and thank the same being for doing bad and good things.
Right.
Like, it's like, I think it's more the human beings that are doing the bad and the good things, and the all-knowing being has given you the option to choose whether you do either or, right? But, that's just...
Robert E. Howard talked about his God in the Conan series, Crom.
Yeah.
And I always loved...
didn't care.
Right. So I always loved that notion of Crom gave you the gift of the ability to win valor when you were born. But not only did he not give a fuck if you won valor, he would actively try to fuck you up along the way. And it was just like, here's your gift. You could live this amazing life, but I'm going to throw all these obstacles in your way, and it's either going to make you harder or it's going to crush you.
You know what all that creates? Perseverance.
Perseverance. Our running theme to this
our
podcast.
Running theme today.
But that's why I loved Robert E. Howard's version of Conan, because it wasn't comical. It wasn't.
No,
it was
more real,
philosophical.
More, wow.
And Conan was this barbarian who thought deeply, and they've never been able to recreate that on the screen for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely
right.
not. Yeah, there was a new one.
Jason Momoa did it.
No, I think after him there was supposed to be like a King Conan thing that was.
So they were trying to do that. I follow the Riddle of Steel, which is a documentary that they were trying to put out, and they were waiting for King Conan to come out. And there was some kind of glitch with the studio where they're not going to do it now, or.
That's unfortunate.
I would like to see Arnold as King Conan as opposed to an aging Terminator, which is what's coming out now, which seems weird.
We'll see what that is. Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works, but
it's been an interesting journey. And You know, the last couple times I talked to you, I think I had always mentioned that, like, I never felt like I really earned praise or any of this stuff. And
Right.
It's you know, I think now at this point, it's like, all right, well, I've had realization at this point, right? Like the training, the you know, the constant work, the effort, the perseverance, all of that stuff, and like things are happening. You know, like things like I just, you know, the next thing I'm able to do or whatever, and I'm going to these competitions and, you know, and doing well, and so.
Are you having to work harder now, and that's why you're feeling better about it? Like, was it easier for you?
It was a little too easy in the beginning, right? Because
now
it wasn't enough.
Now I need work.
Yeah, now I need to, right? Because initially it was, you know, so I think that's one of the reasons why I got a little weird about that. Because when I started off, I was doing powerlifting. I was competing in powerlifting, but I went in knowing that I wasn't going to win.
Right.
I knew that. I knew that because my bench press was way too low and my deadlift wasn't high enough either.
Right.
So I knew, you know, I knew that I wasn't going to win, and I got in the weird mindset of that, you know, like, but for me it was never. I don't think it was ever, you know, I need to win. I just want a realization of the work that I've done.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
In an environment where there's other people doing the same thing, and then there's judging.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to just go into the gym and do a lift. Let's have somebody critique it. Was it good? Was it not? Right.
Yeah.
And then it's stamped. Now and then let's do it again. Let's try it again. Let's make some progress. And that carried over into the disabled strongman, where I was like, oh well, I can't win, which is it was a weird mindset.
Yeah.
Which I have since crushed because, you know, now there's people to compete against.
Yeah.
And so, but again, I think overall, it's still the reason why I'm still so driven is because it's about me making myself better, not about competing against other people.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's just help. That's just help that adds to the drive. Right. It's not a bad or a good thing it just is. It just adds.
You know, the other thing is you're not in a traditional space, so everything you do becomes this story,
right?
That you had to work really hard for to get to the point where you could do this, where no one else has done it exactly like you, and unless they have the exact same injuries and exact same issues you have,
it's different. Yeah.
It's your sport. Doesn't matter who else is there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had to, you know, initially I had to figure it out. Like there wasn't social media heavy back in 2006 really.
There sure wasn't.
When I started doing all of this stuff, you know. So I had to learn how to bench. I learned how to, you know, I just guessed. Here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about it too is when you don't have a choice, right? You don't have a choice. It just sort of happens, you know, like if you're driven enough to do it, to try it over and over again, you just sort of, your mind just kind of goes, no, I should do it this way. And it works, you know, and if it doesn't all the way, you adjust it a little bit and you keep at it, you know, and not to say that I didn't have a lot of good people around me helping me. I mean, at one point I was at this gym down in Columbus called the Doghouse, right? And it was kind of powerlifters from West Side and from Big Iron and some other places that just sort of, you know, gravitated in there and left. You know, it was sort of a stopping point.
Yeah. Louis pissed off at me, so I'm going to train here for a while.
Louis pissed off at me, so I'm going to train here for a while.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm learning how to deadlift, and I started off sumo because I figured it would be the better way. It was more stable, right? My philosophy for my type of training is when you're unilateral in a limb, in either the hand or the leg, you're now a tripod. So you need to have those two wider points to create the stability for the other point, right?
Right.
So I figured that my deadlift should be more of a sumo because then I've got this tripod, right? Well, it works until you get it to the top, and then you realize that you're only in one hamstring and one butt cheek, right?
Yeah,
because all that weight's on the left side, and you don't. Your other side's too far away to really engage. So over time, my feet came closer, and I started doing more of a conventional deadlift. It's sort of a hybrid type thing, but now I can engage both legs. So my deadlift went from like 315 to 455, right?
Yeah.
You know, or 457 or whatever. And
that's super interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, because I was using half.
Right.
I mean, obviously, it was still engaging some, but it wasn't like I couldn't flex it because it was too far away from the center of weight. You know,
well, when you showed me how to bench that way too, it was definitely figuring out that tripod, how to set up.
Right. You need to you're a triangle. You got to have that stability point braced with those other 2 points that are far away. So, so I'm sitting there and I'm learning how to do this sumo deadlift, and Chuck Vogelpohl comes up. And he's like, all right, let's try this. Let's try that. Move your leg a little bit here. Move this. And he adjusted me a little bit, and it right to 365.
Yeah.
You know, so I did have some people around me that really helped, you know.
Chuck Vogelpohl's a good person to have help.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it was, at that time, I was so new to everything, I didn't realize
who Chuck Vogelpohl
was. I mean, I knew who he was.
Right.
And I had seen him lift. You know, I watched him squat 1140 or whatever that was. I think I watched him squat that, or 11 something.
Yeah, I know which video you're
something
talking about.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I was at one of those meets where he did that, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you know.
He was an animal,
and
still is an animal to this day.
With a fused neck and everything. But he's still. Anyway, so he, he was one of those people that I had around that just. I had all this different knowledge around me, you know, all these different training ideas and thoughts and stuff, and so I think. The reason why I was so successful is because I had the opportunity to try it all, right? I wasn't just indoctrinated into one philosophy. I had all of them around me, which allowed me to see what works best for my specific situation, because not all of it does. Like, speed work is completely pointless for me. Absolutely pointless, because I already have, especially for the bench press, right? I already have to deal with both lateral and vertical stability, right? When you're bench pressing with 2 arms, the lateral stability pretty much is negated by the other arm, right? I mean, there's still some,
right,
but not really much at all. You're just worrying about the back and forth, the vertical, right?
Right.
Well, vertical's the wrong, whatever, the north-south, right? Instead of the east-west,
right? Yeah, I know exactly.
You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So I have to deal with all of that. But when I bench press with speed, I lose the control of the left to right, the east to west, right? And it just ends up being sloppy and doesn't do anything, you know? And then you know, I run into another guy later who says, well, speed work is supposed to be 3 meters a second, right?
Yeah.
And you don't realize how fast that fucking is, right? Like, until you get on one of those accelerometers and try it out. You can't do... Most of the people I see do speed work are just doing repetitions. That's not fast enough.
Oh, yeah, and that was one of the reasons I stopped doing it.
And you don't lift maximum weight fast.
No. Who was JM was talking about that.
JM was talking about that. That's something that I had thought about long time past.
I used it when I was throwing, and I think it worked well.
Well, that makes sense.
But I was accelerating a 16-pound ball.
Yeah, but to your point, that's fast.
Right.
You're doing something fast, so you should train that way.
Yes.
But when you're a powerlifter, you're not doing it fast.
So in our online programming, which you're on, if you look at the pure program as opposed to like the power program is exactly what I was doing when I was throwing. And it's all conjugate based, speed work, heavy work. But they use that speed work because Louis couldn't get his guys to do max effort work 4 times a week like the Bulgarians were doing because they would break, you know. So that's why they rotated that in. But
I did more of the jam thing, the repeated effort, 6 sets of 6 type thing until I could add weight, something like that.
That's what Pape's doing right now. It seems to be working really well for him.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you an easier to follow baseline.
Yeah,
right? You know, percentage nonsense. You just gotta until you get the repetitions, you move on.
Yeah,
you add a little weight. It makes a lot of sense.
And if people are wondering, we keep referencing this podcast. It's Dave Tate's Elite Fitness Table Talk podcast with J.M. Blakely.
Listen to it.
It's a little disturbing at first because you see JM, and I'd never heard JM speak in my life.
He's got a very specific sound, doesn't he?
Very quiet and but he's brilliant.
He's about as cerebral as they come. I think. I felt like I was listening to like Lex Luthor or something,
right?
You know, of like the strength world, like this guy.
And that he talked about a little bit about the weight gain stuff, but I have sent that article to any kid who's come to me and asked me how to gain weight. My nephew was trying to get into the Air Force or something, and he was like 6'3", 150, And
my brother, about what, 30 or 40 pounds?
And my brother asked me what he should do, and I just said, what he wanted to know what weight gainers he should be on. I just sent him that article. I said, if he really wants it, this is what
calories
do.
a calorie, like he says. Eat calories. Be in a calorie surplus. There's a lot of things that have clicked, and I think we definitely don't spend enough time on self-improvement. Like our self-improvement of all things, like, body, mind, and spirit, right? We spend a lot of time on our bodies. You and I do, for sure, right?
Yep.
That takes a lot of time, right? I spend a little bit of time on my mind, but, I've got work, and I've got all these other excuses, to not read or do this or that or the other thing. And then the spiritual thing that I'm listening to now, I'm like, I do not sit there and just not think of anything most of the time.
Right.
And I was thinking about that too. I'm like, I wonder how I'd even go about that, because if I go blank, I feel pain.
Wow.
Right? Like, maybe I focus on the pain and then don't think about anything. But I'm still thinking about the pain.
Yeah.
So I'm in some kind of a loop there, like.
Have you tried meditation?
Yes, I've tried it. You know when the best time to meditate is? When you're like in rhabdomyosis. At the end of that workout where you're just laying in your own sweat.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I really liked about my Muay Thai coach is he would work the shit out of us, but then he'd have us lay on the mat.
Yes.
And he would start from feet, and you just relax everything from your feet all the way up to your head, all the way out to your fingertips,
yes.
And then he would say, sink into the ground. And I'd have these moments of levity where I would just feel like I'm floating in space, and I fell through the floor.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think maybe I was in that point, right,
yeah.
where I was just focused on nothing and just floating away.
Well,
so
when we started this whole thing, the philosophy was going to be train, educate, evolve, and the reason why you had refined savage, and that was because when I was throwing and I was competing and I was getting after it, all I cared about was training to throw far, to make money. And that's all I focused on. And then when I stopped, I started to think about training as a different thing, and getting healthy and getting in shape, actually getting in shape and looking like you lift weights. But I started adding in things. So, I don't have to be at the gym until 6 a.m. to start the class, but I get up every morning at 4:30 so I can go down and read for an hour before, because I need to get that in, because now my training is on point. I want to be able to get that hour of reading in every morning, and then a lot of times my wife will get to the gym and do her 6 o'clock workout, so I go back and get another hour in the evening. And then I've worked on the meditation, and it is difficult because it's hard to blank out, but then you can't be critical of yourself, because even the masters,
that's still a thought, right? When you're critical, you're still thinking.
Oh shit, I'm thinking about something.
No, I'm thinking about thinking. This has to go away.
So what I try to do is break it into 5 breaths. So if I can go blank for 5 breaths, and then I let myself think, and then I come back to it, another 5 breaths, and all I'm thinking about is the in and out of my breathing. And just I'm sitting in usually in my living room, the same place I read, and I just try to think about the in and the out. And I tell you what, I don't go long. I'm not skilled enough to go 20 minutes, but I'll go 10, and it makes a huge difference in the rest of my day. I like to do it before I come back from my evening sessions. People look at my job and think it's not difficult, and let me tell you, it's not difficult. I teach 4 classes a day. I'm in here fucking around. I'm doing the thing I love to do, but I want to be on for the people that are in here, so I need a boost of energy. I need to be on point. I can't be in here pissed off because the cable's out, or the
somebody flushed
toilet paper towels
down the toilet.
Right. So I have to be on, and that really will refresh you and get your brain working again and get your energy levels up. And I think, just like you said, it's super important that we address every aspect of making us better humans, and the physical training is 100% part of that. But so is the mental training, and so is the spiritual training, and figuring out where you are in life.
Right.
And I read that book, and I highly recommend it. It's called The 4 Agreements. And one of the thing is you're talking about not talking shit about people and not gossiping, which is huge. Not making assumptions about people. trying your best, and they're reminders of how to work as a human being around other people.
The book?
The 4 Agreements. And we talked about it on the podcast I did with Aaron, and it was really good. It's like maybe 100 pages long tops, and I just implemented one of those agreements every day. And I'm not, and he talks about this, you're not going to be good at it at first, because I still find myself getting pissed off at people and ranting, and then, but what I'm doing now is I'm recognizing it, and I'm pulling it back.
Right, that's the part of the recognition of what you're doing. You don't realize that you're doing some of these things,
right?
You know? And when I was listening to the podcast that I've referenced way too many times, but it made it. It's like, oh yeah, dude, why am I doing that?
Right.
Like he was. What's really important? You know, like you'll find out what's really important by what you spend your time doing. You know.
Yeah. I remember
your time. Your time is what's the most important thing.
Yep.
That you have. Right. You can get more money.
Yep.
You can get more things. You can eat more food, but you can't get any time back. You can't save it. You have 24 hours a day, and that's it. And you're not even guaranteed those hours or the next day's hours, right?
And making the most of those 24 hours. Like, I tell people now to, one of the things that's really helped me out is doing these sticky notes where I put them next to my chair at home, and I write down what I have to do for the day, and I become so efficient just by writing things down. And it's not like I was being lazy before. I was forgetting. Because my brain's going a mile a minute, but now I can check those off, and it's a little game for me. I won today because I got all those things done.
That's funny you say that, because at my job, I do something similar where I have a planner, and I write down all the things I need to do, and I take a highlighter, and I just I'm crossing things off,
and you feel.
And
good
I like to flip
it.
back pages and see which ones I got all done.
Yeah. And I'll purposely load it up where I know I'm not going to get through all those, but I'm going to get through as many as I can.
Yeah. So that's definitely a good tool for sure, especially if your mind is busy.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up, because I think that's the emphasis of the show is, and the brand, whatever that is. I mean, I want people to live their lives. Who said this the other day? That they live their lives the way they wanted other people to live their lives. And that was really good for me, because I know that Joe Schmo who comes in here and gives me a half-ass effort and then goes home and watches Cleveland Browns football instead of reading a book, and drinks too much and eats too much shitty food. I can help them, but I'm not going to change that mindset. But all I can do is I can try to live that life that I want everyone else to live. And that's all I can do is control my... And the thing of it is...
You're an example, right? Like
trying to be an example, and my son is picking it up. So I look at the lessons, and I am not hard on that kid at all. And I've never had to be hard on that kid. But I think he looks at Aaron and I and sees success through hard work and discipline, and I think he recognizes that, and now the kid is successful, and he resents the kids around him for not doing the things that are going to make him successful. So football for him is becoming a real struggle.
See my point?
Yes.
That's where I was thinking when you were talking about that. That's where I was at. I knew the work that I was prepared to do, but then I'm sitting there running lines, and I'm ahead of everybody, and they're all mad because I'm running too fast. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Are we getting better, or are we just running through the lines?
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to win? Do you want to be a better team? Do you want to be a better athlete? Do you want to crush your enemies?
Right.
It's just I don't. I guess you're right. I mean, I guess I did have a little bit of that mindset when I was younger, and it developed through, it was brought to the surface with military, with parents.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, my parents they're I couldn't have asked for better parents,
sure.
Right? I mean, I don't. It's hard for me to even talk about it because, people that have had issues or had other things with theirs, it's like, well, I can't tell you mine were amazing, right? Like, I don't want you to, I don't want to, makes me, I guess it makes me feel guilty about it, right? That I had such a good upbringing, but it's also, I think, really the reason why I was able to get through this. Or, well, I'm referring to my, I forget that we're not being looked at. I'm referring to my, my disability or whatever you want to call it, my injury. It's because of that stuff. It's because, the military helped me learn more perseverance and never quit. And, my dad was basically like that as well. Like, he's still as active and everything. And, he's pushing 60-something now.
Yeah.
And, and then obviously all the training and everything physically after the accident has also done that. It's definitely the reason why I'm able to deal with, the constant pain and everything is because of that.
Yeah.
So.
You said that the only times you don't really notice the pain is lifting and sex.
Yeah,
right?
lifting, sex. Yeah, it's distraction, really.
Right.
Yeah, it has to be a complete distraction. So if it's a good movie where it pulls you into it, it's interesting to me how, like, you can be watching a movie and then all of a sudden you pop out of it and you're like, oh, I'm in my room or I'm in my living room. You don't even realize. So stuff like that. Yeah. Anything that kind of pulls complete focus and attention.
Right. Yeah. So, are we still thinking about going to Iceland?
So I brought the sling.
Did you?
If you want to see all that?
Yeah.
I
up for all.
I haven't had any time to test it more.
Yeah.
So, but I don't really think it's going to be difficult.
I don't think it is either.
To get it right.
I think it's going to be easier to lift that odd-shaped Husafell stone
than the perfectly shaped replica loadables.
Yep. We're going to have a 315-pound natural Husafell at Highlander this year, courtesy of Sean Urquhart.
My buddy Josh Eisel has like a 290 that I'm going to make it up there to try as well. I mean, we had 300 or something in the test one, and it was not a big deal.
Yeah, and with the girl on your shoulder.
Oh yeah, we put her in there. No, she wasn't in the shoulder. She was in the thing.
Right, yeah.
In the thing. She was in the what are those called?
Yeah, Husafell stone. I mean, he calls it
the loadable Husafell.
Shane Rickman calls it a loadable Husafell.
Okay.
Paul of Strength donated that for the cause, and
I want
to go and watch.
We should talk about that a little bit actually before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm completely thankful for Aaron and you guys sending me that thing, because I have never actually done anything like that before, where it was a veterans cause that they focused on me.
What was it called?
Challenge America.
Challenge America, right?
And it was that's the name of the company, I think, is Challenge America.
Right.
And it was called Makers for Heroes was the event.
In Israel.
So Challenge America was the group. Makers for Heroes, I think, is what it was called.
Right.
It was done at the Catholic school. St. Edward's, yep, Catholic school. They hosted it for the 3-day weekend where they did the make-a-thon, where they built the things. So this was a really interesting experience for me, because when Aaron sent me that the sign-up email sheet thing, and I went into it, the first question was, what do you struggle with doing, and how could something help you complete this task? I went blank. I'm like, I don't know, what do I struggle doing?
Yeah, you figured it all out.
What the fuck do I put here?
Yeah.
And it was like, the one thing about it that I brought up to them was, well, maybe don't ask a question that's just negative. How about have something, maybe put, another question in there after that, if they don't want to answer that, or before it, that says, what's one of your life goals that you want to complete, right? What's something that's just crazy and out there that maybe your disability is preventing you from going after?
Mm-hmm.
So... Right. Instead of putting in something like, I want to be able to, wash dishes easier or something like that.
Some of those people
need it. Yes, I agree. Right. Which is why I'm saying there should be both. Question. There should be another question, or it could be or something.
Yeah.
I think that's more of my personality, optimism.
Sure,
I don't want to fucking. I don't want to pay attention to something negative.
And my guess is most people who have.
They don't. The other veterans are like that too. They don't want to pay attention to something negative. But it was something. They all had some disability that they needed help with, and every one of them had an answer. including my crazy request of lifting a Husafeld stone.
Right.
They fucking came up with something.
Well,
it was crazy. It was so awesome.
They had it. None of the dates matched up with anything Aaron and I could do. I was either coaching or she was working. But when they asked me to be on the team, it was like all these people were like engineers and physical therapists. All I wrote on there was, I lifted the stone.
But you don't understand how valuable that is.
Yeah.
Because none of these engineers and other people have any idea of what that entails. You can sit there and say, well, it feels like this, it feels like that. You got to do this, you got to do that. You know, you need this type of pressure, you need this type of grip, you need this type of leverage and blah, blah, blah. Well, they don't understand that.
Yeah,
so Steve Foshin came, and he was that person.
Yeah.
And he was one of the top 3 people that contributed.
That's awesome.
I mean, it would have been the same, you know. So don't feel ever like you don't have something to contribute to something like that, because you do. You have experience, you have wisdom and things that people don't understand. Most of the people can't lift any of this stuff. They don't know. They don't get that. You know, I said I want to lift the Husafeld stone. I'm sitting in the room with my team. They're like, "What the hell is that?" They don't have any idea. Right. You know. So I explained it, and they're all looking at me kind of cross-eyed. Why do you want to do that? You know, like, what's that about? You know.
I tell you, when I went over to do it, I was technically going over to do the Masters World Highland Games Championships, but it was 100%. I wanted to lift that stone. I just wanted, and my goal was to get it into my lap, because all my asshole friends were telling me it was impossible. Like Steve Pulcinella was like, I couldn't lifted that stone at my strongest, which is bullshit. He totally could have, but Steve is a fucking pessimist, so I know he could have lifted it. There's no doubt in my mind, but I was like, fuck, you know. But that was my goal, was just to get it into my lap. I got to walk with it for a little bit, but I'm so psyched for you to get to do that, because the experience of it, and you know, you have to fly into Reykjavik, you're going to have to travel north, you have to find this little gravel dirt road that isn't marked with, hey, the Husafeld stone is down this road, and then you get there and there's a, you know, 300-year-old church, and there's a glacier in the background, and the wind's coming in, and it's just it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, live life for experiences.
Right. Yeah.
Not for things. I mean, have your things to make your life better, but
you can
experience is what
when we did the video for Matt Vincent's channel. You know, and when I lifted that, I had been awake for something like 36, 38 hours straight, just flew there. We got there, we waited all day, then we drove up there, and I mean, I lifted it, and they do an interview with me at the end, and I'm just exhausted. You can just see in my face I'm exhausted, but I'm also so fucking stoked and elated at the whole experience of it that, you know, I don't think it would have been any more if I would have made it all the way around the pen. It was just the experience of being there and doing it and lifting this stone that every strongman has lifted at some point, you know, when they've gone over there, and it was just amazing. I can't wait for you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying about these guys, you know, I can't thank them enough for creating the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, what, I don't know. There's not much else that I could think of that would make me feel more whole again, you know? Right. Like, not, you know, not even consider the whole thing. You know? Yeah. I mean, it's a very selective group, you know, of people that can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, feels honorable to be part of, you know, feels, you know, something like that, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's right. The exact right attitude, the right way to say that.
Like, I feel like it pays homage and respect to just all those 300,000 years of work.
Yes.
Right? Like, and maybe it'll help change things going forward too.
Right.
You know,
we're all the best of the best. The like JM talked about, the last of the genetic.
We are the best. Yeah, we're the best of what's made it for 300,000 years.
Descendants of saber-toothed tiger hunters, you know.
Woolly mammoth, you know.
Right.
Yeah, woolly mammoth hunters. Just, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, man, you want to go lift some stones and shit?
Absolutely. Let's get it done.
Do it. It's been great having you on the show, as always. I think this was fantastic. I'm sure we'll do this again 100 million times.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And I'll see you in Iceland.
All right.
This has been the Refined Savage. See you.